But first, the breaking news. Isaac DeVere is reporting that Andrew Cuomo is not dropping out of the general election race, right? And it's kind of a will-or-he-won't-he, but the deadline's tomorrow. Is this a surprise to you?
Ultimately, Andrew's decision or my decision matters less than the decision that voters already took on Tuesday night, where we won from Bay Ridge to Diker Heights to Harlem to Washington Heights. We saw a mandate delivered for a new generation of leadership. And I am so proud and excited to continue to build on that mandate with an ever-expanding coalition, one that has now included the endorsements of Congressman Jerry Nadler, of State Senator Brad Hoylman-Siegel, and Manhattan Borough President, soon-to-be Controller, Mark Levine. And ultimately, that is a coalition that will continue to expand through November. Right.
So you're saying no matter what, I mean, if Andrew Cuomo's in, it's not like a redo where you're worried?
No, not at all. I mean, we did it once, and it turned out pretty well.
If there is one thing that Donald Trump has been doing consistently throughout his administration of chaos, it's been attacking the media, and not just the smears as usual that we've seen throughout his entire political career. He has weaponized the government to try to get journalists fired, and in many instances, he has succeeded. But today is not one of those, because after Donald Trump launched a full-on attack against the CNN journalist who broke the story of the leak coming out of the Pentagon detailing how Donald Trump's attack on Iran was a complete fail, which went against the lies he's been telling. He lost his mind, but now that reporter is hitting back against his threats, we're going to get into it all. But before we do, I want to hear some of the truth that we now have after an intelligence briefing of members of the U.S. Senate. And we got that from Chris Murphy, right here.
Listen, I appreciate the briefing. This briefing should have happened immediately after these strikes. There's a real question as to why the Director of National Intelligence is not allowed to be in these briefings. That's a question that we should get answered. Listen, to me, it still appears that we have only set back the Iranian nuclear program by a handful of months. There's no doubt there was damage done to the program, but the allegations that we have obliterated their program just don't seem to stand up to reason. So obviously I can't share any of the details from this briefing, but I just do not think the president was telling the truth when he said this program was obliterated. There was certainly damage done to the program, but there's still significant remaining capability for the Iranians.
Knowing what you know now, would you have authorized it? Knowing what you know now, if the president had come to Congress to get approval to authorize this mission, would he have had your vote?
No. Ultimately, the only way to truly constrain Iran's nuclear program is diplomacy. You cannot bomb knowledge out of existence. No matter how many scientists you kill, there are still people in Iran who know how to work centrifuges. And if they still have enriched uranium, and they still have the ability to use centrifuges, then you're not setting back the program by years. You're setting back the program by months. The only path forward is diplomacy. And I just have not heard a realistic path from this administration about diplomacy. Of course, all of us would love a diplomatic agreement in which Iran promises to hold no enriched material. But that has not been a reasonable predicate for negotiations in the past, and it is not likely to be a reasonable predicate for negotiations in the future.
So Chris Murphy states now on the record, after receiving a classified intelligence briefing, what we've known all along, that this attack operationally was a failure. And I consistently mentioned that in large part, that was because of Donald Trump's posting on Truth Social that he was tipping off the Iranians that they needed to start moving their uranium out of the facilities he was obviously going to be bombing. So that aside from the fact that the military operation was not executed properly, just goes to demonstrate how incapable Donald Trump is of carrying out any operation at all. And we've known that to be true. And that is how the media has reported on these strikes, with the most updated and accurate information. But because it was such a huge failure, and Donald Trump just can't accept that, because he thought it would raise his approval rating, and in fact it is tanking it. He's going after CNN and specifically one journalist, but Anderson Cooper made sure he did his part in calling out the nonsense of Trump. So before we get into how this reporter hit back, I want to see how clear Anderson Cooper made it that Donald Trump's been lying about CNN this whole time.
We played you some of Defense Secretary Hegseth's press briefings this morning alongside the Joint Chiefs Chairman, General Dan Kane. General Kane gave a straightforward presentation and gave more details about the strikes on Iran. And as you saw, Secretary Hegseth was very unhappy about the press coverage.
You see, we're here this morning because in hunting for scandals all the time, in trying to find wedges and spin stories, this press corps and the press corps miss historic moments. There are so many aspects of what our brave men and women did that, because of the hatred of this press corps, are undermined because your people are trying to leak and spin that it wasn't successful. It's irresponsible.
Joining us now, CNN political commentator Adam Kinzinger, and former Republican congressman who also served as a pilot in the U.S. Air Force and Air National Guard. Congressman, first of all, what did you make of some of the new details we heard from General Kane and the presentation from Secretary Hegseth?
Well, General Kane, did a good job, kind of standard what you would expect from a leader. Hegseth basically, look, he's on the receiving end. Donald Trump wanted this nice movie where he could come in at the end, deliver a blow, tie it up with a bow, have a ceasefire, and it's like the end of a blockbuster movie. And unfortunately, he, by his own doing, said that it was obliterated. So he created this question. And so now what you have is Pete Hegseth and everybody around Donald Trump that are now trying to create a straw man. The straw man is, you're going after the military.
CNN was giving accurate reporting on what was happening on the ground, the intelligence that we knew at the time. And mind you, Donald Trump was holding intelligence from the public, keeping intelligence briefings from members of Congress. They were canceled earlier this week because Donald Trump was so afraid of Democrats being able to speak on the record about what went down. And Anderson Cooper has made that clear. And of course, then Donald Trump. Carolyn, all the MAG stooges were attacking the one reporter from CNN who broke the story, and you would expect, after what we saw with Terry Moran at ABC, that maybe CNN would fold. But no, the reporter, the company at large, they're fighting back. And I want to take a look. Trump wants CNN reporter. He spent days watching Fired Like a Dog. Donald Trump has unleashed a nasty attack on a CNN journalist who broke news of an intelligence leak about the Iran strikes, demanding that she be thrown out like a dog in his latest tirade. Since the leak made headlines, the president also revealed that he has been watching the reporter Natasha Bertrand on CNN for days as he's traversed the globe for the NATO summit in the Netherlands. Natasha Bertrand should be fired. From CNN, Trump wrote, "I watched her for 3 days doing fake news. She should be immediately reprimanded and thrown out like a dog." He wrote, "The meltdown was the latest salvo from Trump that he's launched towards the media ever since it began questioning whether U.S. strikes on Iran's 3 major nuclear enrichment facilities had been obliterated as he reportedly claimed." In another post, Trump wrote, "She should not be allowed to work at fake news, CNN," but CNN clapped back on Wednesday, saying in a statement that the company stood 100% behind Bertrand's journalism. And that of her colleagues, "We do not believe it reasonable to criticize CNN reporters for accurately reporting the existence of the assessment and accurately characterizing its findings, which are in the public interest," said the statement by CNN's Communications Division. White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt was the first to reject the report, claiming it was leaked by a low-level loser to undermine the president. I do not say this often, but good for CNN. This is what journalists, this is what media organizations, and I know There are corporate players at stake here that own these broadcasting companies. It is not just CNN on its own making decisions for CNN. Of course, it has a parent company working in its best interest as it relates to the Trump administration. Maybe a larger conversation around who gets to own media outlets is something that we need to have after the Trump administration. I'm taking a look at Jeff Bezos with the Washington Post. These billionaires who buy up newspapers, who buy up media outlets so they can push their narratives to protect their other businesses. Is that the best interest, that version of the free press for us, the consumer? I certainly don't think so, that this is how we need to fight back. And when all the media outlets band together, Donald Trump can't go after them. So maybe we start to consider that someone who's also setting that example of how to fight back, of course, is Zohran Mamdani. We're probably not going to go a video for a while without talking about him. And he was on CNN. In fact, the reason I brought that up tonight, talking about his platform, which I always think is important, and I want to take a listen to Zohran right here.
Right. So you're saying no matter what, I mean, if Andrew Cuomo's in, it's not like a redo where you're worried?
No, not at all. I mean, we did it once and it turned out pretty well.
All right. So now, can we talk about the policy? The policy is what stood out to a lot of people. But right, I said the freezing rents on half of the apartments, free bus service, the free childcare, and the city-run grocery stores. How do you pay for that?
Let's go through it. So for the first thing, freezing the rent, that's not something that requires any fiscal output from the city. It's something that's determined by the Rent Guidelines Board, composed of 9 members. The mayor picks each of those members. They determine each year whether rents rise or whether they stay the same. The previous mayoral administration froze the rent 3 times. So this has clear historical precedent. When it comes to city-run grocery...
Even Adams. You're saying Adams.
No, this is prior.
Okay,
to Adams.
Okay.
He's the current one who has raised it 9% on those same New Yorkers, pushing them out of their homes. City-run grocery stores, I've proposed a pilot program of 1 store in each borough. These are 5 stores in total. The total cost of this is $60 million. This is less than half the cost of what the city is already set to spend on a subsidy program for corporate supermarkets that has no guarantee of cheaper prices or collective bargaining agreements or even accepting
So
SNAP
you're not
or WIC.
looking at some like Soviet Union grocery stores on every corner that are going to be run by the government.
No, what I'm looking at is how to solve the very clear twin crises of affordability when you go to the grocery store and food deserts, which disproportionately impact Black and brown New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs, where I've heard directly from New Yorkers who say, why is it that I can find 6 fast food restaurants in a 5-block radius, but I can't find a place to buy groceries?
But five boroughs, 5 grocery stores. But that can't be the goal.
Well, I mean, the idea
is the goal you want them on every? I mean, but in New York things do go. There's a nail salon on every corner. There's a grocery store on almost every other corner.
I think ultimately I'm guided by outcomes. If this pilot succeeds in guaranteeing cheaper groceries, as I think it will be, then yes, it should scale up. If it doesn't succeed, then no, it shouldn't, because what New Yorkers want are results. And then it comes to making buses free and universal childcare.
Right.
These are things that cost around $700 million and let's say about $5 or $6 billion. Significant amounts of money.
Huge amounts of money.
But have to be understood in the context of a $113 billion municipal budget, a $252 billion state budget, and we put forward a plan to pay for these and more to start Trump-proofing our city through 2 major revenue streams. Increasing the top corporate tax rate of New York to match that of New Jersey, that raises $5 billion, and increasing income taxes on the top 1% of New Yorkers who make $1 million or more a year by 2%. Both of these things, after they come to fruition, you're still paying less than you did before Trump.
Okay. On the city tax, though, and I know that takes effect with people right now, that top rate of people of 50,000 or more. So if you're going to be adding 2% to people at $1 million, that I just did the math, right? Well, but that's going to be an increase of 51% of what they pay now. I'm not saying cry for them. I'm saying if they leave, you're not going to get that money. And when you increase someone's taxes by 51%, aren't a lot of people going to leave?
We're saying we're increasing it by 2% of what it is right now. And ultimately, I'm guided by the facts. The Fiscal Policy Institute did an analysis of the top 1% of New Yorkers and found that they leave the city at 1/4 the rate of other income categories. And when they leave to what are called high tax states, New Jersey, California. So what it then comes down to is, why are they leaving? Is it fiscal policy or is it actually quality of life? And I've heard that time and again from wealthier New Yorkers, from all New Yorkers.
So it's talk. They're going to go to Florida and all you think is talk.
I hope y'all are excited for some nonstop mom donning, because that's what we're going to be bringing to the channel. We are now the Zor radical left over here, as Donald Trump will probably be calling him. This is a leader that we need right now. This is someone who I hope brings y'all as much hope as he brings me. And that's something that I really want to be pushing on this channel every single day. More than anything, we need more of an aspirational vision than an oppositional vision. Quite frankly, we haven't had enough opposition from some of our establishment Democratic leaders, but Zohran is not in the establishment. Zohran is actually fighting back. We're going to be talking about him on this show, as we have for a while now. A lot of people just catching up to Zohran. We've been around here for months. It's been since last year. But that's besides the point. We're going to keep talking about it every single day on this show. And if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.